This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
She's somebody that certainly inspires creativity. And with that comes healing, comes realization, comes therapy. That's what she does. We're going to talk about paint today and what you can do with it, how to unleash your creativity. I'm getting this out of the way right now for anybody that's thinking, well, I'm not artistic. Yes, you are. We all are. We have it in us. Just let it flow and learn. Barbara Robertson is our professional of the year. She's back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Real good, real good. And where you are, different location than usual. You've got a bunch of works of art on the wall in back of you. Um, is that stuff that you've done or people you've worked with or a combo?
Now, these are all things that I've done, and at this point, I would likely call them more works of play than works of art
Oh, I like that.
because it highlights a distinction that I began to make for myself when I hit a creative slump. And I started to hear from one of those inner critic voices that started to say, you're just not good enough to be a painter. You need to get over that. Go do something else. And I
Hmm.
think we all have one of the voices that somewhere will tell us, we're not quite good enough. So maybe we should just get over it and move on. But I've been making art or something that resembles art my whole life. I've been drawing, sketching, painting, creating, building stuff out of recycled cardboard pieces, you name it. I've been making stuff all my life because it gives me great pleasure. And I didn't want
I
to
think
lose
we're all
that.
doing
So,
that. We don't even realize that we're doing it. And it may not be, and I love works of play, just so good because when you say work of art, you've put it in a certain category. You, even if you
right.
say to somebody, yeah, this is my work of art, now you've raised the bar of expectation. So I just work and play. And why do we do most creative stuff anyway? Of course, to solve problems and things like that, but it's also just to enjoy, express, feel free,
Exactly.
all of that.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think we may not notice this very often, but joy is the essential part of the word enjoy. And we don't think that when I'm enjoying something, I'm having a joyful time because enjoy seems to be a little quieter. But really, when we're doing something we enjoy, we're inviting some spark of joy to light up for us.
Hmm.
Even if it's just a quiet little glow instead of a big flare, it still touches that part of us that wants joy, that feels more alive when we have a little joy. And so this is kind of what happened when I was stuck and not really able to put a brush full of paint onto a surface. My imagination started to nudge me. It kind of gave me the message of why not just squeeze the paints out of their tubes and let them play.
Hmm.
And I took my clients' efforts as inspiration because here were these children and adults that I was working with who were taking a great risk and really bringing some bravery to the forefront to put a mark that was visible on paper in front of a witness to express something true for themselves, because that's kind of how the artwork works in art therapy. It's meant to be an expressive tool, something to convey meaning, both back to oneself by seeing what is it I've just gotten off my chest and put onto the page, but also to the therapist who is there to basically, my role is to witness and accept whatever I see, because whatever comes up for that person, I firmly believe is exactly what was meant to come up for that person. And that means whether it's attractively beautiful in the typical kind of aesthetic way, or whether it's really sort of brutal looking or violent looking or chaotic. All of those things connect to real feeling states that we have as human beings.
So I wanted to go
And
a
so
little
I want to
deeper into
bring
that.
all that. Yeah, okay.
When somebody creates something, could be just a marker on a piece of paper, whatever it is that coming up for a reason? Is it
I
always, there's always a reason that whatever somebody drew, the technique they use, whatever, it's not random. There was something going on.
I really believe that that's true because
Hmm.
I think that our subconscious drives so much of our behavior. And there have been, psychologists and experts in the field who've done all sorts of studies about brain neurology and what happens in this part versus that part of the brain when we're blah, blah, blah. So there's some data that really supports that there is some kind of meaning for us in whatever mark we're making. And it could be really all across the board. It could be because we need to discharge energy that feels superfluous, that feels like it's revving us up and we want to feel calmer. And so we take a crayon and scribble all over the page. And some of these things behind me, you can see they're kind of a lot of energy in the way the paint is just swirled onto the surface.
Hmm.
And it felt good. I remember, just kind of making those swirling marks and pressing with the brush and smearing a little bit and getting some edges raised on the brush strokes so they reflected back to me. It was like, oh yeah, that's better on the page than in here. Because in here, it feels like turmoil. Out there, it feels like fun.
Do you vividly remember your state of mind in many of the things that you created?
Yeah, I think some of it does stick with me
Hmm.
because it's a body memory, it's a sensory memory, and it gets reawakened, it gets stimulated by seeing the mark that was left when I made that motion. So it kind of reconnects with what are actually called mirror neurons in my brain, which are meant to recognize and kind of reenact something that I see outside of myself. We know the most about when that happens is between an adult caretaker and a child, because the infant, even a very, very young infant, will have facial expressions and changes. And the parent, if they're in eye contact and gazing at each other, will begin to mirror those expressions and then maybe alter their expression. And the child may begin to mimic the parent's expression. And in that
Hmm.
way, we begin to reflect each other and know that we're seen and know that basically we begin to know that's how we know we exist because we're reflected back from the world around us. And those mirror neurons keep working. For me, some years ago, I noticed a couple of trees on my typical drive home that had very different gestures in the way that they stand. I know we did sort of imaginary trees. What tree would you be if you had grown into a tree? And both of those trees were so striking to me because they felt like a person standing. One person was really standing and just kind of reaching their arms out and open to the world and open to the sky. And the other one was very sort of gnarly and bent, but also felt like a dance. It felt like maybe one of those Middle Eastern or perhaps Asian kinds of dances where
Sure.
all the angles are sharp, but the movements are fluid, even so. And so it just kind of woke up in me a different energy that then was a sensory experience that made me feel good. Made me feel like I was the dancer, even though I was driving my car down the road.
Wow. Now we had a little bit of wind, and there's a dance going on there.
It was
Uh,
a dance, yeah,
can we look at some of the works of play in back of you
sure.
and how you did it, what you used to do it? I've always been fascinated, and I've shared that I came close to being a syndicated cartoonist decades ago, but I've always had a fascination of looking at anything creative and how it was done. What
Okay. Yeah.
paper, board, pen, ink, brush, whatever it is. I find it interesting.
Okay. I'm just gonna pull one off the wall so we can look at it a little more closely.
Sure.
And this one is actually two different pieces, and one of them is glued on top of the other one. So the bigger piece is on a glossy piece of paper, and it's acrylic paints that I spread on, and I can kind of show you some detail.
Yeah.
There's a lot of texture. So I spread it on, but then I also scraped through it. And because the paper is glossy, it was easy to remove some of the paint from the glossy surface and just let the white show through. Then this middle piece here is actually a piece of textured wallpaper. And I mostly used sponges to apply it, but then I also took a comb, like a typical comb that you comb your hair with, and dragged it through some of the paint to leave those little tooth marks. Like in the green, you can kind of see those little stripes. And as I was looking at the two of them, there was something that felt like a flaw in the bigger one. Underneath where this rectangle is, there was actually a big gap that had no paint on it. And I left it open on purpose when I did this paint sort of smearing and scraping and spreading. But the longer I looked at it, the less I liked that, the more it felt like an omission, like something needed to be there. And then I had this little rectangle with the texture on it, and it kind of felt like it would fit where this violet here kind of connects with that one.
Was that intentional or just kind of happened?
Well, it just happened as I was playing with it on the surface, but that's what brought me back to the decision that that's where it was going to belong.
But you, with
There
that
was
piece of
that,
wallpaper,
and there
that
was,
was you did that already, or
yep,
did yeah?
yep, yep. They were
Hmm.
both done at separate times in separate places with separate inspiration.
Wow. You know what's interesting? That glossy paper.
What?
Before you even said it, I saw the gloss. It almost gave it a metallic feel to it, at least on camera. Um, and I
And
would
it
have never
is,
thought about using, gloss with acrylic.
and there is metallic paint too. The gold has actually got some metallic flake in the paint.
Okay. All right.
So
Maybe
that
that's
even
it.
kind of increases but I do think you're getting some reflection off the glossy surface as well.
So I like to go into detail. So you have a border around that. Did you have some masking tape or something around that when you painted?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly how I did that. I can let you kind of see what that's like up close.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and I like to do that. Um, because it kind of automatically frames the image when you take the tape off. But even with the tape on, I usually use this dark blue tape, which can sometimes throw my color sense off
Mm.
because the paint is next to the dark blue. And then when I take the blue off and I see the white, I'm like, oh, I didn't think it would look like that. But because it's a work of play,
Doesn't matter.
it's okay. It doesn't matter.
So
That's
what
right.
what frame of mind were you in? Do you recall when you did that?
You know what word comes to mind? A tizzy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I was in a tizzy about something. And so I let the paint do being in a tizzy, like especially down here, and there's all this kind of rapid, small movement. Um, as an art therapist, I would connect that with potentially with anxiety. Let's see.
I have to ask, by the way, how do you get them to stay on the wall and be able to put them back up again? Double-sided tape?
Four big loops of painter's tape.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so this one was on a bigger piece of paper, and after the image was done and it had sat around for a while, I decided to tear the edges kind of close to the painted image. Because sometimes I don't really want the rectangular frame as much as I want that kind of more organic shape that the
The,
image took on in the first place.
the edges have a very interesting rough texture, and it almost looks like watercolor paper.
Yes, and that is due to a wonderful little tool called the Edge Ripper. So it's a piece of plexiglass that has this decal edge. That's what they call the kind of edge that's on a like a sort of handmade piece of watercolor paper because the slurry layers don't come to a hard edge. They just have a sort of natural boundary. And then the lower edge is a little bit less dramatic, but it still has the variation in it. And so what would happen is I would put this down on top of the page and then rip the edge up against those little teeth. And
That was a really cool trade secret.
as the Brits would say, Bob's your uncle.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really cool. It really is.
I
Huh.
know. I was so tickled when I saw that, on online. I was like, wait, what? There's a tool you can do that with? So cool. So yeah, I've been having all kinds of fun with that one.
So with this work of play, a lot of fluid motion and the darker red, orangey kind of color, I feel defines it very much.
Yes, it's definitely the dominant color. Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
just out of curiosity, what kind maybe of energy are you picking up in yourself from this, the fluidity or the color or the whole thing?
Ooh, I have it. I need to verbalize it. Um,
Just kind of stay with it for a minute and see what comes up. Maybe it'll offer you a word.
yeah, I have it. Tumultuous.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I would say that fits.
Yeah, there's maybe some angst going on in there. Certainly, even if you factored out the reddish color, orangey red color, there's still, there's a lot of energy.
There's a lot of energy, and it's big energy. Like the
Yeah.
wide strokes tell you that there's some power there. There's
Yes.
some force. Right.
Very much so.
Yeah. And that it really wants to move. Yeah.
What was going on when you did that?
Honestly, I don't remember very much about this one. This could be one that I actually did in one of my own art therapy sessions. Since I went into private practice as an art therapist, I've always made sure to see another practicing art therapist regularly so that I
Hmm.
assure myself that I'm always on both sides of that relationship.
Wow.
So so I remind myself, what it is to kind of show my feelings to someone else, what it is to let those turbulent, tumultuous feelings show up outside of myself, to remind myself that they are finite. And when you put them on paper, there's an end. There's a point where they stop. Whereas for me, I don't know, it may have been that we didn't grow up in a family that encouraged a lot of emotional expression, but I always had this vague sort of formulation in my head that if I started to let the feeling out, it would just kind of expand infinitely and take over the universe. So that was maybe my own way of discouraging myself from making a peep. I don't know. But it took root after a while and it was hard to get past.
Interestingly, part of me, I love it, but I don't because of the energy. It's almost like, ooh, whoa, but wow, it's like um, something you don't want to see, but you want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in a way, I would love to jump into that stream.
I'm not sure if it looks like lava to me, so I don't know if I want
Well,
to.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't want to jump in if it was lava. But if I had a life ring, if I had one of those great big inner tubes, and I couldn't possibly slip out of it,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be one wild ride,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh, like in a vortex. Like it's going, it's moving.
Yeah, it's going, it's moving, and at some point, there's some exit points. So, you can land on the shore.
Mm.
At least to me, it offers that possibility. You can go in, you can spin around, you can feel the force, you can feel the energy, you can take it in, and then you can let go of it.
We have like 2 minutes left. How about we grab another one real quick?
Okay, let's see. Well, this one.
We lost her. That was very bizarre. The connection went away. All right. Well, we're just about done here today anyway in talking with Barbara Robertson. And if you're considering maybe a different type of therapy, very easy to find her. Go to Robertson Art Therapy LLC.com. She's our professional of the year. She can walk you through it and maybe even realize some things based on creativity that maybe you weren't aware of. I think we got her back here in the last couple of minutes of the show. There you are.
A minor catastrophic fall of the computer off the little stand I have. But this one is the background is just a lot of paint kind of spattered really onto the sheet, the page, and textured a great deal. And then the pink and gold pieces are actually scraps from another image that I did that gave me the feeling of those kind of mountains in those Chinese ink drawings where I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. They're usually just done in black ink on cream colored paper and they're very lightly painted. They look like they're off in the distance. There's kind of an atmospheric feel to them.
Is that technique, and it's Japanese, and I actually took lessons in it when I was
Did you?
teenager. Sumi. I think it's called
Sumi.
Sumi.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's kind of what I'm talking about. Now,
Hmm.
technically, it really doesn't mimic that approach at all, except that it began to give me the feeling of a foreground and then a further background and further, and kind of being able to really kind of move into the distance.
There's depth there. You see the foreground with the red color, and then you kind of move your way back, and it almost looks like with the greens and the blues, a little bit of touch of a pink in the background. It also reminds me of almost like impressionistic painting style.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing that I do kind of enjoy about kind of playing like this with paints because I'm not intentionally trying to make it do something in particular. I'm not trying to create a particular outcome. but there are ways in which it can begin to kind of feel familiar.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. This one is a more calmer vibe, but
Yes.
it's not without energy, and that's where the reddish color pops in.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
But we're not like caught in the, we're not caught in the what do they call that? The undertow or whatever it is, the
Yeah, where you're getting swept away.
you're getting swept
Yeah.
away in the current.
Um,
The riptide. That's what I'm
Thank you.
thinking of.
Yeah. This is great. Just learning about the technique, and I'm still in awe of that device, the plexiglass with
Oh
the
yeah,
edge.
the edge ripper. Yes.
It's just a like I would have never even thought of that. Uh,
I know. I know. It's amazing the gizmos that are out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to while you went away there for a moment, I reminded everybody your website,
Oh, thanks.
robertsonarttherapyllc.com.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's Yep.
Uh, you're available, even just a conversation if somebody would like to look at
Absolutely.
look at therapy in a
Yes.
different way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you can connect with me through the website or through my email at brobertson.atr@gmail.com. Love to hear from you.
Uh,
And I want to inspire you to create, even if you don't think you have a creative bone in your body, because I know you do.
so I am going to. I just found a couple of shots of stuff I did back in the day. I'm going to text you, and maybe you can analyze that next time we get together.
Awesome.
Best number for me to text, is it the one that ends in 8 or the one that ends in 1?
8.
Got it. All right, it's coming your way.
Awesome.
I'm
Okay.
about. I'm not gonna say I'm about to get critiqued, but
No, no,
I'd love
no.
you.
And I'm not gonna like read the tea leaves for you, so it's all good.
All good. No, whatever comes up, whatever comes up.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
I remember when I did it, and this is going back to, my, like I was 20, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Well, I'd love you to see it. So I'm going to send it. And you know what? Let's throw it out there. If you want to send something in to us, a screenshot, text, a photo of something, maybe your work of play, instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. Thank you for today, Barbara. So interesting, insightful. This stuff is cool. And it would have been great just to look at the art and how you did it, but to know what's going on there when we create something, how it comes from within is just it tells all. And I think it's cool.
Thanks. And that's what really brings the magic for me.
Yep. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. We'll talk soon, okay?
Take care. Bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.